Hi everyone, and welcome to our last segment of our practice class, and this one is going to be geared towards intermediate and early advanced students. So if you are an intermediate or early advanced student, what should your practice look like at home? Well, first, you should always start with, is my bench at the correct height and am I sitting at the correct distance? There's a whole different video on that, so go check it out where I explain how to figure all those things out. I explain that in great detail. So go watch that first and then come back to this one. Once you've figured out your bench height and distance, you are ready to get playing. So the first thing I would start out with is scales, chords, arpeggios, anything along those lines that you've learned. You're going to use those as a warm-up for your practice. Get your fingers ready, your brain ready to start thinking intensely about what you're going to practice for the day. Now, you don't have to go through all the scales, chords, arpeggios, etc. that you know every single day. I would probably start by picking just 2 keys and going through those till they're comfortable, making sure all your scales are very even and all the same speed, not too fast, not too slow, things like that. Once you feel confident with that, then you're ready to move on to a song. Okay, before you play a song, what should you do? Well, you should always look at the song with your eyes first before sitting down to play, because your eyes are going to catch things easier than you are going to be able to if you're thinking about reading the music and all the stuff on the page and trying to make sure your fingers are playing the right notes. It can be really overwhelming for your brain. So cut out the step of playing and go ahead and look through your song first. What are the notes? Are there any notes that I don't recognize from a first look through? Maybe go through and figure that out. And if you need to, you can take a pencil and write that note in there, especially if it's a legend line or a line that is way above the staff. Feel free to write those in so you remember. After you go through those notes, you're going to look at the rhythms. Do I have any tricky rhythms like eighth notes or dotted quarter notes? Or am I in a completely different time signature than I thought I was? Or something along those lines of identifying rhythms. And once you feel like you're pretty confident, you've looked through it enough, then and only then would I play through it for the first time. After you played it for the first time, you're going to evaluate yourself. You're going to say, how well did I do on that first try? Maybe it was not so great, or actually that wasn't too bad, but there's a few spots I could fix. If that's the case, then go back to those spots where you messed up on the notes or the rhythms and practice just that spot by itself. We call that spot practice. And that's very important for your brain to remember what that spot is supposed to sound like correctly. Once you feel like you played that spot a couple times and it's confident, then you can go back a couple measures, maybe 2 or 3, and see if you can successfully play through that spot you were working on. If you can, you're good to move on to the next spot. If not, you may need to spend a little more time in that area. Okay, once you have gone through all your problem spots, the next thing, again, we're going to continue to look with our eyes. You're going to look for things like dynamics. And if you feel confident enough, you could add in staccatos and slurs on this try, or maybe think about some accent marks. Try to take a few of the details at a time. Don't overload your brain with thinking about every single little detail of the song. So maybe you just start out with, I'm going to play all the loud and soft marks, and I'm going to add in every note that's supposed to be staccato. So pick 2 or 3 things on the next run through. Once you finish with that run through, again, evaluate yourself. Did you find that you messed up on spots when you had to add in staccato, or did you forget there was a forte mark there, etc. So, and then again, you go through, practice that spot, back up a couple measures till it's confident, and then again, look through your eyes. What are some details I missed? What can I add in this time? And then you'd play it for a third time. Then I would say, unless you feel like you want to work through a certain spot a couple more times, leave that piece to rest, at least for this practice session. If you come back later in the day and you want to look at it again, that's totally fine. But I found that when you truly look at all of those details, your brain is going to start getting tired. So this might be a good idea to get up from the bench, maybe do a lap around your living room, something to clear your brain, get some water, that's always good for you. And then come back and maybe you decide, hey, I'm going to do 2 questions on my theory book before I move on to the next song. You can definitely do that, and that's also a good way to incorporate your theory homework into practice time instead of doing it in the car on the way here or something like that, which has happened to all of us. But incorporating it while you're sitting at the piano, you're definitely going to learn a lot more, because if you are analyzing chords, for instance, you can actually play that chord on the piano or have the keys to help you figure out the notes or whatever. Okay, once you've kind of given your brain a break, then I would repeat the steps that I discussed with your second song. Again, take another break. Maybe do some more theory homework. Maybe you need to whip out those note reading flashcards again and do those. Whatever you want to do in your break, and then repeat those processes with all of your songs until you reach the end. Another tip about practicing, especially the first couple days, is never ever ever try to do the song up to speed. When you rush to the speed, your muscle memory is not going to be able to remember things as well as it would if you took the time to do very slow practice and gradually increase that speed each day. Another tip that I would also add when you're looking at a song for the first time and you see a pedal marking, unless you're super confident, like if you are a more advanced student, even more than early advanced, and you've been pedaling for several years, I would even recommend leaving out the pedal for the first couple run-throughs. It's just, again, one less thing your brain has to think about. That way you can get the notes, rhythms, details, etc. confident first, and then add in that last step of pedal, which shouldn't be too hard for you. So what if you have a spot in your song that you just can't get no matter how hard you try? That is when I would take that notebook that you have and I would write down what measure number that is, or what section, what song, and then we can look at it specifically at your next lesson. By writing it down, you're going to remember to ask me about it. Because if you're anything like me, I have a horrible memory. So I found that if I write it down as soon as it happens, let's say day 3 is still that same spot, write it down, and if by chance you get it figured out before the next lesson, then of course you can erase it. That way I know how to best help you with your songs and something that you're specifically struggling with at home. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how often should I practice? And that is a great question. At this level, you definitely need to be practicing between 4 to 6 days a week. I would say 4 is the absolute minimum. I would definitely say between 5 and 6 is what you want to shoot for. If you practice 7 days, that's great, but I typically recommend at least 1 rest day in the week. I found that's just helpful for your brain so it doesn't go on overload mode. So that 4 to 6 days a week, I feel like is a perfect time commitment. Now, if you follow all of these steps as a more advanced player, intermediate player, you are probably going to be spending between 30 minutes to an hour a day practicing. So feel free to maybe do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night, whatever works best for your focus level, your brain. You always want to feel that you are focused and engaged, and if you are not feeling that way, then it might not be the best time to practice. Okay, parents, how can you be involved in your child's practice time at this stage? Well, I would typically recommend a 1 to 2 times a week check-in. Again, depending on their age, if they are younger, it may need to be a little bit more. You can ask the student, hey, can you play a song that you're learning for me? And you can have them show you where they're supposed to play, let's say loud or soft. And even something as simple as that, you can be that extra ear. Can you hear them getting louder or softer? And then you can help coach them. Say, hey, I know you said you were supposed to play loud there, but it really all sounded the same. Or something like that. And then they know, okay, I gotta work on that spot. So maybe as the student, you circle that spot. You're gonna hit that later in the day. Another thing you can do is tap a steady beat with them. This is gonna encourage them to be focused on the rhythm and the timing, and making sure that they are spot on, because sometimes it's easy to miss that half note, or especially if you're playing a faster song, things like that. So ask them what's a comfortable speed for you right now, and then they can show you, and then you just keep up that pace the whole time till the song's over. Okay, so I hope that this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or submit a question in the comments below. Thank you.